The market was an absolute chop fest today. In today's video, we have some big news, like how Nvidia's offices in France got raided. So that's definitely not something you see every day. On top of that, we have Goldman Sachs predicting a 90% chance of there being a government shutdown by Sunday. And then to top it all off, we have interest rates at their highest level since 2007. So we have a lot to talk about today. Towards the end of today's video, we will be covering a $1.4 million big money trade from today, and we have a lot of setups and things to talk about for tomorrow. So you better stick with us all the way to the end. But Tom, the market was all over the place today. What do we have going on?
Yeah, it was pretty insane. So yesterday at the end of the day, we had that big green momentum kind of fly back into the market as SPY hit support down there around 423, and we came roaring right back. And of course, this morning, we didn't necessarily explode, but there was a pretty solid move up with the SPY, and we ran all the way up and tested 430, which is a pretty solid resistance there. We even broke above 428, which I thought might give us some fits, but we roared up right through there. So the market is kind of recovering back up here for a couple of days. And we have talked about this a lot, Mike, where we go look at a daily chart of SPY, and during some of these big downtrends is whenever we see the SPY pop up in some of the largest ways. And I think that we're just kind of in that couple day time span where we might see a couple green moves here. But we do have a lot to worry about this weekend with a possible government shutdown, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, Mike, some crazy stocks today were these semiconductor stocks like Nvidia and AMD. And AMD really stole the show with its movement. But man, Nvidia, they got raided over in France. I can't believe it.
They literally got raided, literally. So this is, like I said, not something you see every day, but basically there wasn't too much of an explanation as to why their offices were raided. But, the French government basically said that they suspected Nvidia of some anti-competitive practices. And as we all know, Nvidia is the powerhouse when it comes to graphics cards and AI and all that good stuff. But, keep a close eye on Nvidia going forward, because the news certainly isn't good, but it's also pretty dang suspicious.
Yeah, it really is. And I can't believe that they would get raided like this. I'm not sure that this would even be allowed in the United States, that they could just get raided for suspicion that they were, having these anti-competitive practices. Normally, you got to have some type of proof or like a warrant or something. I don't know how that situation went on over there, but it definitely seems a little bit weird for Nvidia, but they didn't care. Their stock really kept moving up. And AMD, I saw some good news where their CEO was talking a little bit yesterday and a couple other things, but man, that movement was amazing. 4.78% out of AMD, and it ran all the way up to recent resistance right around 103 to 104, hit right there and started trending down. So maybe that could be a possible breakout play for tomorrow if we get back above these levels, because man, these chip stocks really heated up the past couple days.
Exactly. And like you said, AMD was really the star of the show today. And on top of that, Microsoft's chief technology officer basically said AMD's products are really awesome and that AMD is, just a great company for the AI field and their graphics cards and all that stuff. So that definitely helped put some fuel onto the fire. But we all know how AMD is. It's super crazy and it has some pretty big moves. So keep a pretty close eye on this one for tomorrow. But Tom, we can't help but not talk about this potential government shutdown. Goldman Sachs is pricing in a 90% chance of there being a shutdown. And obviously, if the government does shut down, that would not be good at all. And it's just kind of like another hit that it seems that's just been adding to all the negative news lately.
Yeah, exactly. It's just everyone's been really worried about this the past, I would say, couple of weeks, right? But we've been kind of anticipating this, and it seems like they're just not getting anywhere with the negotiations either. I'm not seeing any big news coming out necessarily suggesting that they're, close to a deal or anything like that. I keep seeing things that Republicans in the House might pass something, but then, it has to go to the Senate, and the Senate probably won't want to pass whatever the Republicans pass. So we'll have to see what happens, Mike, but it's definitely a contentious time. And come Sunday night is going to be where this really starts to get scary. If you guys are out there and you're wondering, well, hey, if this is happening Sunday night, is there anything we can watch, right? If you go to TradingView, you can type in ES and click on S&P 500 futures, or you can do /ES on Thinkorswim, and this will actually give you the futures, and these open up Sunday night around 5 p.m., 4 p.m., depending on your time zone, and these will actually be you could trade them, but you'll be able to see this market movement overnight, and it might get a little bit crazy heading into Monday morning.
Yeah, so Sunday's basically the deadline, and I know this shutdown is like a little bit more political than usual, because if the government does shut down, members of the U.S. military will have to work without getting paid, at least immediately. Yet I know the government is still sending hundreds of billions of dollars over to Ukraine, even during the shutdown. So our own service members, they have to wait for their money, but the government's going to keep sending to Ukraine even if the government does shut down. And on top of that, if the government does shut down, it'll cost around $1.9 billion a day in lost and delayed revenue. So, obviously it's just not a good thing, and hopefully the government doesn't shut down, but we'll see what happens, and it's just something important to keep in mind going forward. But on another note, Tom, as the market held up fine today, one thing that just keeps getting hit harder and harder and harder are the what we'll call interest rate markets. So whether you're looking at treasuries or mortgages or any other sort of interest rate, they are just climbing higher and higher and higher. And U.S. mortgage rates are actually now at 7.3%, which is the highest level in 23 years. This just puts further pressure onto the real estate market. And on top of that, U.S. Treasuries, the 10-year Treasury, is actually at its highest level since 2007. So it's just lots of crazy and historic things happening in the market right now that aren't getting as much attention as they really deserve.
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe how quickly the TNX is moving up here. I made a joke earlier, and it almost looks like DraftKings on a recovery back to the upside whenever you zoom out far enough. Whenever you see what these rates what these yields used to be and where we're at now, it's almost like looking at the chart, we have a lot of room to the upside still, which is actually pretty scary to say. I sure hope that that's not the case, but it looks like Powell and the Feds are looking to keep rates elevated into May and June of next year are kind of those projections until that easing starts coming in. So it seems like it's just going to continue to be a tough landscape for stocks over the next 2 to 6 months, I'd say. And it's definitely worrying whenever you have all this compounding with all the credit card losses and inflation going higher. It's just, boy, it's a crazy time out there.
No doubt. And then another thing we have to talk about is how basically bearish sentiment in the market has doubled over the past 2 months. Basically, if we look at a chart of the AAII bearish sentiment, we can see that it is just soaring. And basically what this represents is just investor sentiment into the market from individual investors. And we could see not only is it relatively high, but look how quickly it rose in that short period of a time. It's not like it rose to this high level over the course of multiple months. It shot up pretty dang quickly. So it just kind of seems like over the past couple weeks and months, we've just been getting hit after hit after hit in terms of negative news for the economy, whether it be the decrease in credit rating or whether it just be, pressure to the overall economy at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And this bearish sentiment is just it's another good visualization to kind of show that fear in the market right now, right? A lot of people have a lot of fear, and it's been creeping back in at a rapid pace, it looks like. And this has happened before. Look at 2020. We're kind of on that same pace whenever you start to look at it and you make a nice circle there. We're not far off. So it's a pretty tough time out there. People are getting very worried. The Feds have been tightening. It's been getting tougher and tougher. The mortgage rates obviously are high, which is hurting the housing sector. I mean, it's just a plethora of data right now going against the market, and people are starting to notice that. I think that's also why we're starting to see profits being taken on these bigger stocks like Nvidia, which have finally started to fall down, right? Like Nvidia had held up so long, all the way up till the beginning of September pretty much, before we finally started pulling back. If we go over to something like Apple, it's been pulling back a little bit more, making a little bit more sense, but there's still a long ways to go on some of these stocks.
Exactly. And, over the next couple weeks and months, bulls will make money, bears will make money, but pigs will get slaughtered. And that's one of my favorite sayings in the market because, there's a lot of ways to make money whatever direction you trade, but you have to do it in a strategic and, of course, controlled way. But what I really want to talk about related to the market right now is if we go to, let's say a chart on SPY on, let's say a daily or weekly time frame, we can see the market has been falling pretty consistently, and what we have seen, especially over the past week, is a pretty quick drop. And what we saw today was a decent pop up. And what I really want to emphasize is that, even if we have bad news in the markets, and let's say we're in a time where stock prices are falling, if you go back in other times in the past where the market has fallen, the market is not red every single day. A lot of times in the biggest downtrends you will ever see in the market, you will also see some very powerful green days. And it's like, you have to be aware of that because let's say you have a bear stance on the market and you just have to be prepared for green days and, pretty powerful green candles sprinkled in every now and then. And you can say the same thing for the bulls too, but it's just something to keep in mind going forward from past experience.
Yeah, and those green candles can make it tough sometimes, right? Like if you're trading something like SPXS or SQQQ or something that's leveraged, those green candles even take, a bigger effect on these leverage stocks. So you got to keep that in mind too. That's why we always talk about like SPXS and SQQQ generally being like shorter term trades, right? Because they're so leveraged that whenever you get these down days like this, look at SQQQ today, the way it fell down 2.2%. Yesterday at the end of the day, took a pretty big tumble as well. That's how these stocks are going to move during these crazy times. But, you could always go with SPXL then, right? As the market starts to pop up. This one is a 3x bull leverage to the upside. But I'm just saying to be a little bit careful with some of these stocks. This is why you don't necessarily want to hold these things too long. But at the end of the day, it's been really fun to trade the downtrend, Mike. And seems like in the short term here that downtrend is, at least for a couple days, starting to shift a little bit more back to the upside. And I think that this shutdown might affect us a little bit more than we think over the weekend.
Yep, we shall see. But Tom, it's now time for the fun stuff, so let's get right into some predictions for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching pretty closely is Chewy, ticker symbol CHWY. To say this stock is oversold is an understatement. It has been taking an absolute beating, especially over the past couple of months. And basically it's so oversold right now where even if the market has a pretty big green day or red day, this stock shouldn't be overly affected. So that's why I like it in this market time. And I am going to be watching this one pretty closely to the upside going forward. I think it's just so oversold where there's a good chance we could see a nice pop up. So I'll have some close eyes on it.
Man, that is one of the more oversold charts within a couple month time span that I've almost ever seen on some of these stocks like this. I've seen some worse moves percentage wise, like VFS or other stocks like that. But man, Chewy is definitely taking a big hit. And whenever this thing starts to pop back up, it'll probably get a lot of momentum. So I'm with you, Mike. Good play there. I'm actually going to go with Tesla. I know I've pissed a lot of people off probably with Tesla over the past couple of months. I've been talking about it a lot to the downside. And, if we actually go back and look at the movement, I think it was good I did that, right? But right now, it's actually starting to pop back up. And I think Tesla is one of those stocks that in the short term could have a pretty good recovery tomorrow. So if we get above 247.50, I'm going to watch for a solid move up into that 250 resistance. I think that could be a solid, safer play tomorrow. And I still think that green might creep in just for a couple more days until that shutdown starts taking hold.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Penn, Penn. This stock has had a very wild, I would say like 2 months or so. They shot up on news of their deal with their sports betting with ESPN, and then since that point, they've fallen quite a bit, but now they are starting to see some daylight again. So I will be watching this one pretty closely to the upside. It doesn't have that same level of craziness as a stock like Tesla or AMD or like, I don't know, Nvidia, but it does have some pretty good moves, and it is a pretty good stock to trade. So I'm going to be watching it pretty closely to the upside.
Yeah, and I think over the next couple months, people need to keep this one on the radar. Whenever Bet ESPN finally comes out, I think that's going to start taking the sports betting world a little bit more by storm. So let's see what happens with it. But even for the next couple days, like 3% today, that thing is no joke. So I'll definitely keep my eyes on it. And my next play is going over to the SPY. So I'm watching SPY tomorrow up above $430. It's a pretty big resistance. I'm actually thinking that we could possibly get up and hit 432 tomorrow and have a nice retest of that resistance in the short term. So if we get above 430, maybe 430.25 if you want to be extra safe, go ahead and then look at a breakout. I think we might fill this little gap, like I said, up to that 432 area. The SPY is actually on a huge trend line right now. If we go out to an hourly chart and we scroll back, we're kind of bouncing right on it. Actually, a daily, it even looks a little bit better there. So we're starting to come up a little bit. I think we'll have a couple days of green and then some more selling to follow maybe next week or in a couple weeks.
All right, sounds good. Well, it's now about that time for the momentum plays, and with the first one, we have NIO to the upside.
Yeah, these China stocks, the EV ones specifically, were pretty nuts today. Go ahead and make NIO break out above $9, just above that high of day.
All right, with the next one, we have Square also to the upside.
SQ, nice recovery here, basing off support. If they get up above 44.60, look at calls.
And with the last one, we have Palantir for both directions.
PLTR, one of my favorites out there lately. Go ahead and make them break above 16. Again, just above that high of day. I like that whole dollar amount level right there. If they get back under 15.50, then maybe look at puts.
All right, so we have that downside level for puts, the upside level for calls on Palantir, and then don't forget about the upside levels on SQ and NIO for tomorrow. They're only plays if they break above the levels we listed. But it's now time for my favorite part of the video, which is the big money $1.4 million trade of the day, and we are looking at none other than URNJ. And this is probably a stock that most of you have never heard about, and basically it is a combination, it's an ETF of a bunch of different uranium mining companies. Uranium stocks have been booming over the past couple months. CCJ is a stock that I've talked about so much over like the past year to year and a half, and it has done nothing but rise, especially over the past couple months. We especially talked about this stock right when it was at $21 last year, and now it's almost doubled. So it's rising quickly. There's a lot of money flowing into the uranium industry, you can say right now, and that's why we're kind of seeing $1.4 million that were plowed into the URNJ 21 strike call options that expire on March 15th of 2024. So basically, this is a bet that URNJ will continue to rise. The higher it rises, the more millions this trader will make. I like the setup. I think this whole industry has a lot of room to grow. But at the same time, if you do trade it, you're going to have to give it time. If you just expect to trade this thing today and then get out of it next week, this is not the trade for you. But if you're willing to give it some time and let it do its thing, I think it has potential.
On the daily chart, this stock is starting to get pretty wild with some of these green days lately. It's getting volatile, so I like it. Hopefully this volume keeps up, and it would be really nice to see URNJ continue its nice uptrend. Look at that volume I just threw on at the bottom of the chart. I mean, that volume is increasing a ton lately, so let's see it continue, Mike. That's a lot of money thrown in. I'm a big fan of CCJ and UUUU in the short term. It seems like those stocks are just not slowing down at all. So keep an eye on them. I love them. Even if you don't like URNJ, even just looking at CCJ could even be a pretty good play in the short term.
Exactly. So all in all, Tom, the Bears are still in control of this market, but, over the past day, Bulls definitely made a statement, and, it's pretty common to see this sort of price action during increases of volatility, as well as just downtrends overall. So it's pretty normal on that side of things. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else going into tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm really not surprised at all right now. I feel like that this uptrend was kind of due, right? Like we've been running down a lot lately. It's you normally get some nice pullbacks to the upside, retests of support or resistance, and then normally moves back down. So I do like this movement up here. I think it's just normal market price action. Like we keep saying though, we still have a lot on the horizon for next week, like that government shutdown. That is going to be, I think, very, very crucial over this weekend. They need to get something done with it, right? Or else somebody's going to face some consequences in the next election. The question is, who's going to get blamed, right? Probably Biden, but at the end of the day, it's all of them up there.
Yep, so we will see either way. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, demolish that subscribe button. When you do, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. It takes us hours to go through all of the market news and filter out what actually matters, so you can just spend, let's say, a little bit more than 20 minutes watching the video and know everything you need to for the market. So when you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And last but not least, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Modern, in the StockedUp Discord. You've been in the chat for around 2 months now, and your activity has been increasing quite a bit, so make sure to keep it up. But besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and let's end the week on an amazing note.